Hello everyone, I'm Lisa Wind, I've just blown in. And today we are back with more Seduce Me 2, The Demon War. Last time, I learned to harness my rage and knock over dummies. It was pretty cool. We learned a bit more about the spirit, and hopefully we'll be able to get it removed soon. But now it is a new day, it is time to press onward. It's time to begin things. I headed towards the west side of the castle, knowing Sergeant would either be there outside expecting me, or would arrive there shortly after me. Nevertheless, I was ready to train again with him, after my nap, because Hannah took a lot of my energy. You're not, Sergeant. You have both your horns. What I wasn't expecting was to see another male in the field, branding a large warhammer. He seemed very intimidating, but I seemed to be less threatened than when I first met Sergeant. He, however, had a hard gaze in my direction. Yes, that is the gaze of hardness, my friends. Rawr. Who?
Human, you do not belong here.
Agreed. I stared at the stranger, seeing him raise his warhammer and slam it into the ground in front of him. As the hammer impacted, the earth began to quake and a large crack in the earth began to form, tearing its way towards me. Attack? Oh, okay, we're also in a time segment. I don't know if people caught the little bar at the bottom zipping along. I glared at my attacker, feeling the spark in my soul start to burn as I began to rush forward. With each step, the fire within continued to grow larger, increasing the energy within my body and forcing me forward. My feet skipped over the sides of the growing crack in the earth, soon becoming inaudible and light the closer I got to my new opponent. Within seconds, I was in front of my attacker with a raised fist. I slammed my fist into the being's chest, but quickly broke out of my rage state, as my hit didn't send him flying back. The pain that jolted through my hand caused me to jump back and grip my fingers tightly. It was like trying to deck a steel wall. Yeah, you just hit steel. What do you expect was gonna happen? Maybe get some brass knuckles, or bare minimum wrap your hands next time. I was pretty sure I'd broken my hand from the force I put behind it. True. Gah! What the hell? I quickly looked at my opponent as he lifted his warhammer and arced it to slam down onto my body. The pain within my hand coursed through my body. Again, please stop using words so close together. It's bad being able to pronounce it. Leaving me frozen.
Enough!
Nah. The hammer stopped its descent towards me, freezing right above my head. I stared at the surface that would have crushed me, slightly shaking at the realization of the situation. I could have been pulverized. Yeah, true, that could have happened, but I have the power of save state. I just would go back and choose something else. Hi, teacher. I slowly looked over to Sergeant to see him walking over the forest line. The stranger lifted his warhammer and rested it on his shoulder as he stepped back from me. This was planned? Could be.
Your hand all right?
No. Jerk. I looked down at last at my hand, fully taking in the sight of how mangled it had become. It was quickly swelling and bruising, and I could feel the dislocation of a couple of my fingers. Maybe it was the adrenaline rushing through me that blocked me from screaming at the pain. Could be. Or maybe this was me getting stronger. Also likely. The sergeant grimaced at the sight and walked over, taking my hand and observing it.
Yeah, it's fucked up pretty good.
Gee, that's your official medical professional opinion? Thanks. I could have told you that.
I'm sorry, sir.
Who are you again?
Nah, you did your job. Stand down for now, Denthulir.
Nice to meet you, Denthulir. I looked to the stranger to see him nod and take another step back away from me. Sergeant, however, grasped my hand, causing a jolt of pain to rush down my arm. Ow! He clasped my hand, weaving his fingers between mine and burying his fingertips into my knuckles, causing another rush of pain. Instinctively, I tried to pull away, but his grip was tight, warning me to stay put, or I would cause more damage to the already wounded hand. I stared at my hand, seeing Sergeant form red energy around it, while it was gravely uncomfortable. To feel the muscle and bone in my hand shift and shudder under my skin, I felt my hand slowly healing, and the swelling die down. Wait, you guys have healing spells? Teach me those! Soon enough, my hand looked completely undamaged. Sergeant released my hand and crossed his arms.
There. Better?
Yes? I observed my hand a little longer, bending my fingers and moving my hand through the air. There was no pain, nor was there discomfort. It was completely healed. I looked up at Sergeant and smiled, nodding. Yeah, thank you. It would have been better, if I hadn't fucked it up in the first place, but, Sergeant gave me a simple nod before coming stern.
Now, why do you think your attack didn't work?
I aimed for armor instead of fleshy bits? I took a moment to think of the answer. There were many things that could have been wrong. I looked to Deathelier. I'm not pronouncing that properly, I'm sorry. Observing him now that I had the chance without my rage-tinted vision. He definitely looked strong. Okay. But not strong enough to be a wall of steel. He's wearing armor. And again, he was no training dummy either, and I couldn't decimate one of those even after a full day of training. He had pretty tough-looking pecs, which would be nice if we could see under his armor. I pressed my lips together, trying to come up with an answer. I don't know, I aimed for his chest, I'm too weak. I aimed for his chest when I should have went for fleshy bits without armor? It made sense. His chest was built like a fortress. Add on to the fact he was obviously a demon, and wearing armor, and you had the recipe for a normal-sized Hercules. Wait, they're normal size? Does that mean there's abnormal-sized Hercules? I have so many questions. There was no way I was going to break through his ribs. True. Sergeant nodded. Yay, I got question right.
He's my right-hand guy.
Aw.
Trained him for years and helped him become a living tank. Not
Cool.
even a sharp blade can cut through his chest.
Really? Can I go get a blade to try this? No offense, D, but I want to try. I stared wide-eyed at Danthilier as he nodded and pounded his chest with his fist. I could almost hear the hardness of his skin bounce underneath his armor. Sergeant stepped towards... They're just gonna keep throwing this name at me, aren't they? Danthilier, and turned to face me, pointing a thumb at him.
You're fighting a demon. We're not weak like you humans
Hey.
are. We are faster, stronger, and no more than your entire race could ever understand.
And yet we have more energy than you and are way more pretty, so nah. I glared a bit. The insults at my race were uncalled for. But Sergeant crossed his arms, settling into his powerful stance to remind me who was in charge.
But demons are mortal.
Exactly.
We all have our flaws.
Yeah.
We just need to know how to find them.
Well, in human guys, if I were to kick them somewhere, they'd go down pretty quick. Is it the same with demons? Should I try to find out? Bat's eyelashes. Well, how am I supposed to find them? He attacked me as soon as he saw me.
Welcome to war, human. No one gives a shit if you're ready or not, and they'd
Fair
rather
enough.
see you dead than in their way.
Also true. A harsh reality. He was right. I was going to go into war, and I was going to get attacked without a second thought, especially because I was human. I nodded and looked to the floor, causing Sergeant to let out a sigh.
Listen, there's this story we used to pass around in our tribes to inspire our young. Want to hear it?
Yes, please. I looked back up at Sergeant, raising my eyebrows but nodding out of curiosity. Sergeant stretched his neck from side to side and looked to the sky.
Long time ago, a pair of demons were after the marriage of a grand chief. One was as strong as 1,000 men and could lift an entire castle off the ground with her hand. The other was meek, but he was as loyal as a person could possibly be.
You know, I would still choose loyalty every time, though.
The chief demanded that they fight for his hand, and so, a mighty duel was called at the edge of the highest mountain.
Cool.
Both demons faced off, and when the battle began, the mighty demon struck first, causing the meek demon to defend himself.
Okay. I began to imagine in my head. It would be nice if we could have a visual of it then. A large battle between a monster demoness and a small and frail demon. The demoness had the upper hand, but something told me the meeker demon would win. The sergeant continued.
The weak demon ducked and dodged every attack the larger demon threw at him until finally, he spotted a weakness and used it. With all of his might, the demon plunged his small dagger into his opponent's hand, rendering her weaponless.
Okay. Also, pick a pronoun, he or her. Or him, or demoness. You kind of keep swapping the gender here. I mean, maybe it's a trans demon and... Okay, I am not well enough versed to speak on these things, sorry. Just pick your verbiage or word usage a little better.
The smaller demon won, and became one of the most powerful brute demons of his time with the noble chieftain at his side.
Aw, good for him. Wow, is it true? Sergeant raised an eyebrow at me.
Do you understand now? There's a reason why weaker demons still survive in battle. Just use your brain.
I'm not good at that. I nodded, understanding his lesson. I had to take my time and find a weakness. Danthlier, however it's pronounced, was a new opponent, someone I didn't know. Everything about him was a mystery to me, and I had learned about him to properly fight back. Sergeant nodded to me before walking away towards the tree line, stopping and turning to lean against the bark of a tree he managed to land by.
Danthlier, beat her ass to the ground.
Gee, thanks. On guard? Wait, what? I suddenly looked to Danthlier, see him quickly take up his warhammer and attempt to slam it down onto my head. Luckily, I was able to jump back in time, seeing the hammer slam once again into the ground and form a small crater in the earth. That could have been me. I focused my gaze onto Danthlier, preparing to dodge another attack. My rage flared and the red tint in my vision came back, causing my opponent to be covered in a black aura. What surprised me, however, was how it configured. Certain parts of his body were pulsing with energy, while others barely had a black aura emanating from them. I hadn't noticed it before until I focused on it. It'd be nice if we could see this. I mean, it wouldn't be that hard, just do a black silhouette over this guy and a little coloring to distinguish what she's talking about. I barely reacted in time as second attack from Danthier's warhammer because of how focused I became. I had to put the battle into perspective. I was fighting him, but at the same time I had to study him. Agreed. That we do. It was the most difficult multitasking I'd ever have to do. Yeah, but literally life-saving. The barrage of attacks continued, and I continued to duck and dodge each one. At the same time, I tried to find some way to fight back. I couldn't dodge forever. Well, I mean, you say that, but if you could eventually tire him out, you could then move in to finish him off. Then, I saw it. His warhammer wasn't glowing at all. If I was correct, then it was a simple warhammer. There was my answer, but what was I going to do with it? I don't want to break his weapon, that's rude. I quickly noted the build of it. It was a solid hammer with an intricately wrapped pommel. However, there had to be a weak spot on it, something that would break, like an Achilles heel. Are we sure about this? As I dodged another attack, I managed to glimpse at a small crack in the hammer. It was small, but if I knew anything about cracking material, then I knew that if I applied my attack directly onto it, I had a chance to split the hammer open. Yeah, now he just has to fight you barehanded. I'm not sure how that equals win. I smirked as I fully let my rage consume my thoughts. Making the warhammer my target, I charged at Danthriel at full speed and leapt into the air, bringing a hand back while he recovered from his previous attack. With a crack in the hammer as my mark, I swung and slammed my hand into it. Anyway, causing it to rupture and split open.
What?
Ha 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 ha! I broke your weapon. The only thing left of the hammer was the pommel, which left his hand wide open for me. I snarled and kicked at his wrist, making him drop it and step back.
Enough!
Aw, but he finally got the upper hand. Immediately, that guy jumped back, rubbing his hand with an amused but slightly proud smirk on his face. I jumped back as well, focused on breathing and calming down. As the red haze vanished from my sight, I looked to the approaching sergeant. I blushed a bit as he gave a couple of claps of approval.
Now you're thinking like a warrior.
Yay! I did a thing right. Sorry about breaking your weapon, though. I couldn't stop the wide, arcing smile across my face. I felt extremely proud that I was praised like a warrior. I wasn't anywhere close to how D was, but for the work I had done, I was getting there. As the day went on, I was given more obstacles to deal with. I had to maneuver around dummies to get my target, and then fight off 2 attackers at once. It was a mind-boggling experience, but I managed to get through them in the end. And I wish we could see some of this stuff, because it sounds awesome. However, I could tell something was on Sergeant's mind. By the end of the training, Sergeant couldn't tear his eyes away from the castle. I eventually looked over to barely see a figure standing by a balcony. Who was he staring at so hard? A hand on my shoulder broke me from my thoughts, causing me to look over at Sergeant in surprise.
You're done for the day. Get some rest.
Yes, sir.
Prepare yourself for tomorrow.
Will do. Bye-bye. I will go bathe. I entered my room, thinking about what Diana had said to me in the morning. If I drained myself of energy, then the spirit wouldn't have power to appear in my dreams. But did I want to do that? Yes! Yes, I do. Erik appeared soon after, exhausted as ever, but not a hair out of place. I continued to ponder as Erik sat down on the bed and stretched.
Another long day. How was your day, love?
I broke a warhammer! I'm so proud of myself. My mind continued to ponder. I had to make a choice. Did I care if the spirit appeared in my dreams? Don't ingest. You know what, sweetie? Have some energy. You need it. I needed rest without bizarre dreams. The spirit needed to stop controlling me and enticing me with its emotions. The question was, how to give Erik my energy. I could easily sleep with him and give him my energy through sex, but I wanted our sex to be about the mood, not a means to an end. Exactly. I looked to Erik and stared, taking every detail of him. Erik?
What is it?
Hug me, pull him to you. Kiss me, please. Erik seemed confused for a brief moment. Ew, that's sexy music. When did you arrive? But eventually smiled. Crawling towards me, I leaned forward and smirked as Erik's lips gently pressed against mine. He tasted absolutely sweet against my lips. Swoon. It was almost intoxicating, the kiss he was bringing me under. I found to not be fair of him, being that he was naturally an incubus with the ability to make me swoon. Is that really what's happening, or is he just really that good at it? But every time he'd kiss me, or just his ravishment on me, made me forget the unfairness of the situation. I bet. And followed me to simply melt into the moment. I wrapped my arms around and pulled him close to me, causing us to fall back onto the bed with him over top of me. Slowly, everything became just about Erik and his love, letting me melt into the sensation we were exchanging. Erik, however, took the moment to pull away softly and stare down at me, looking for permission to continue in my eyes. I knew what I was getting into, so I smiled and pulled him back down to capture his lips again. It was sweet to know how considerate he was about the situation, but I was okay. Good on us. I let myself go into the moment, closing my eyes and wrapping my legs around Erik. He seemed to get the picture, wrapping an arm behind my arched back, and scooted us up to lay with my head in the pillows. Our kiss only intensified as Erik slowly gripped my hips and ground himself between my legs, making me let out a gasp and moan against his lips and causing him to chuckle in reply. I could feel his desire to keep going, clear as day between us. He became slow, almost torturously slow, as he began to strip himself and me down to become bare to each other. I felt the cool air rush across my skin, making me shudder beneath him. Again, we're getting spicy, aren't we? Each kiss he planted on my skin caused a ripple of pleasure to flow through me. It was hard to hold back the moans wanting to escape me, but I allowed a quiet handful out and to entice Erik to do more, to go further with our foreplay. Looking up at him, his eyes began to glow a familiar gold tint, allowing the fire within my core to ignite and burn heavily. I felt my mind become only filled with the thoughts of Erik and screaming his name as passionately as I could. The entire castle would know exactly was receiving my love and whose love I was taking during the night. One way to put it. There wasn't a need for words to be exchanged as Erik's slow smile grew into a passionate and lustful smirk. His tongue memorized every sweet spot on my body, and he used his knowledge to make me writhe beneath him, ushering me to beg for more. My body was slowly pleading with my mind to let me release my desire and craving out so Erik could satisfy me. However, I wanted to fully give everything, and that meant taking things slow and steady. Erik seemed to understand as he slowly built our foreplay up to where we couldn't even take it anymore, and we all could think about was making love. As we finally gave in, we were both gifted with the swift gasp and pleasureful moans at the sensation. The air was hot and steamy as we panted and rode out our love-making, becoming lost in each other's eyes as the mind began to recount everything I loved about Erik. He was devoted, delicate, but at the same time, he was everything my body desired. I could only imagine the same thoughts running through his mind as he captured my lips in his and swallowed my moans as they rushed out of my throat. As we apexed, our fingers dug into each other, desperate to ride through our high and simmer into gorgeously placed afterglow. Our breaths and heartbeats synced, and we were left staring deep into each other's eyes, exhausted but full of love. I love you, my prince. The feelings of joy that rushed through me caused me to nuzzle into Erik's warm embrace, making him chuckle and kiss over my head, despite being tired himself. Still, the air around our bodies was perfect for a peaceful passage to sleep. It was, surprisingly, a peaceful night. Yay! No intruders! I woke up once again alone. However, I knew that Erik was off training. He seemed happy that he was getting back into the swing of it, despite only able to train for a short time before the final battle. You mean they hadn't been keeping up on these things? However, as I got myself ready, a knock echoed at my door. Huh? Come in. The door opened to reveal a sight I did not expect at all. You! My heart froze in my chest at the sight of the man who presented himself at my door. How did he get in here? Why did the guards not stop him? I have so many questions.
Huh? What's wrong?
Okay, this is not how the Demon Lord acts. Get away from me! Oh my god, for real? We're not coming up with the obvious answer this is a spell? I scrambled back away from the Demon Lord, instantly recognizing him. I found myself against the wall, grabbing the nearest object and chucking it at him. If this was going to turn into a fight, then I would attack after I beamed him with whatever I threw at him. To my surprise, a purple tendril stretched up from the ground in front of him and smacked the object away. How did he have Erik's because he's Erik! Magic! Why am I suddenly dumb?
What the? Love, what's wrong?
Come on, me, figure it out. Why was the Demon Lord calling me love? Figure it out! 1 + 1, girl. You got this. I'm gonna calm the fuck down. This ain't right. Something was off. He wasn't attacking me or doing anything other than standing in place. His face was painted with worry as well, an expression I never would have imagined seeing on the Demon Lord. I held my head and closed my eyes, trying to calm down. This had to be the spirits doing, just another trick. Stop it!
Princess, what's going on?
Hi, sweetie. I opened my eyes again to see Erik with a face etched with worry and panic. In the tentacle by his head. Again, I would like to see this. It wouldn't be that hard, just add a tentacle in the background. Anyway. In the tentacle by his head was the object I had thrown at him. But he stood where the Demon Lord was. How? Magic! Why am I suddenly stupid? I buckled down onto my knees and curled over myself, wrapping my arms around my body. This was too frightening, too real. What was happening? Magic! Why am I stupid? I looked up to see the spirit floating silently behind Erik. Before fading away, I knew it. But how was the spirit able to make Erik look like the Demon Lord? Magic! We covered this. It was a twisted method if it was trying to get me to like it. At this point, I don't think the spirit's trying to get me to like it. I think it's just trying to drive a wedge between me and Erik. Erik knelt down and gently wrapped his arms around me, nuzzling my head.
Shh. It's okay.
No, it's not. Things have not been okay for a long time. I barely noticed that I was shaking and whimpering. I couldn't really stop myself. The man who had trapped me here appeared before my eyes all of a sudden. Then he vanished into the man I swore to love. Erik kissed the top of my head.
The spirit must be playing tricks on you again. We'll remove it soon enough. I promise.
Thank you. I nodded, believing what Erik said. This would only last a short while, then the spirit would be gone. Exactly. Only a very, very short while. I expected today's trading to be full of fighting and brawling, just like the last time. However, as I left the castle, I spotted Sergeant sitting on the ground, looking down at a bowl that had multiple lit sticks of incense burning in it. The color seemed to mesh into the smoke that rose from their lit ends, blending to a dull gray color before fading into the air. It was almost mystical to watch, and I wish we could see it. It would be super cool. As I walked toward Sergeant, I noticed that he seemed entranced by the lit incense bowl, focused on the smoke emanating from it. What had him entranced? I'm pretty sure he's just meditating. Not wishing to disturb him, I stopped on the other side of the bowl, sitting down very slowly, and looking into the bowl as well. The incense sticks had different scents that occasionally clashed or blended together in harmony. I could barely make out each earthy tone and every spice the smells emitted. As we're in the demon world, would I be able to recognize the scents? I mean, wouldn't they be, the sense of this plane? Just letting the scents filter into my nose made me slightly dizzy. What was this?
Men's itinerary.
Aladdin at you too, sir. Huh?
It's a test. Every brute demon goes through it when they are ready to be an adult. Mostly, female brutes do it before they become hunters, and males do it before they become guardians.
Interesting. Very interesting. I looked to Sergeant as he finally turned his eyes up to look back at me. He had a stern look in his eyes, which made me nervous. What did this test have in store?
Only those who can master their rage will live through this test.
Cool. There was the rub. I became a little panicked. It had only been 2 days of training. How was I going to be able to pass this test, whatever it was, and live? Oh, come on, I'm a good student. We approved this last game. As Sergeant saw the fear obviously stretch across my expression, he glared harder. Which you can totally tell from this expression.
Are you doubting yourself already?
I doubt myself all day, every day, sir. What are you talking about already? No, I would like time to study. I really wasn't sure what to think. Did Sergeant really think I was ready to do this test? Whatever it was? I barely got the hang of rage energy. Sergeant shook his head and let out a sigh.
If you're not sure, then don't bother. Just leave. I'm not going to waste my time.
Wow. Very supportive, sir. His words stung, but I knew that he was serious. This was my chance to show him, and myself, that I was strong enough to protect myself, at least for this war. I just needed to swallow my fear and do as he said. But what if I wasn't ready? What if this test proved to be fatal? What if I died without having a chance to survive? I didn't know what I was walking into. Also true, but I trust us. I also trust him, not to get me killed, because I'm pretty sure it'd piss off Diana. Don't do it. Let's do it, folks. I had to try. I had to. This was going to help me, then I had to do my best. That's all anyone can ask of you. I looked to Sergeant once more and shook off the fear from my expression, showing him that I was ready. Sergeant grinned a bit before gathering some dirt in his hands and tossing it over the bowl of incense. As the dirt collided into the bowl, a red flash sparked and burst from it, causing me to shut my eyes and block the visual impact. After a second, I opened my eyes again to see what had happened. A large red flame sat in the mouth of the bowl, dissolving the incense into it, and leaving nothing but the flickering tongue of the fire. It seemed to burn immensely, not showing any sign of dying.
Reach into the flame and touch the bottom of the bowl with 2 fingers.
You do remember I'm human, right? I am very flammable. I took a moment to absorb what he said. My thoughts instantly wanted to say no, but something told me it wasn't something I could do without getting hurt. With a breath, I slowly lifted my hand and stretched it toward the fire, feeling the heat grow against my skin as the distance shortened. My fingertips barely caressed the flame before I almost violently pushed my hand forward. To my surprise, I felt no pain from the action, watching the fire dance around my skin, but only feeling its warmth. I let out a soft, shaky sigh before continuing forward and touching the bottom of the bowl with my fingers. I could barely feel a ooze it should be an ooze because that's an O, like texture around my nails and fingertips, but I kept touching on following Sergeant's instructions.
You're not going to go through the full test. As a human, you wouldn't survive.
Thank you!
You'll be getting a small taste of it, enough to show me that you're strong enough to defend yourself.
Okay, fair enough. I nodded in understanding. Sergeant continued.
What you're about to taste is fucking disgusting, but you will not spit any of it out. Understand?
There's a joke in there somewhere, I'm sure. I'll see if I can handle my husband, or soon-to-be husband. I'm sure I got this. I nodded again.
Good. Now take your hand out of the flame.
Do I have to? I obeyed and watched my hand emerge from the flame with ease. Covering my fingertips was a blood-colored liquid, slowly dribbling down my fingers and onto my palm and knuckles. I stared at it, trying not to let my mind overthink what I was about to do. I'm sure it's fine. How toxic could it be?
When you're ready, put your fingers in your mouth and swallow that mixture.
That's what she said. My mind began to fight. What was I doing? This was getting really odd. However, as my thoughts tried to assemble reason why this was wrong, my sense became overwhelmed. What? The air around me tightened. Suddenly the ground began to shift and rumble, almost like I was sitting on a waterbed. I felt my nerves dancing and wiggling beneath my skin, making me slightly nauseous. Was the smell getting to me? The only description I could coherently think of was that I felt like I was getting high. Wait, how do I know that sensation? What have I been doing in between games? My mind was slowly numbing and my body was rocking at the sensations coursing through it. I had to hurry. I instantly put my fingers in my mouth and quickly began to clean the concoction off my fingers with my tongue. Sergeant was right. The taste was absolutely vomit-worthy. It was a mixture of ash and burnt mold. If I could imagine actually trying it, the taste was like eating a wad of aged cigarettes. Ugh, that sounds awful. However, I shut my eyes and barreled through the tape. See, here it makes sense to have a black screen with nothing on it. Making sure to swallow it down, I could feel the effects of the concoction fuse and spread through my mouth and throat, zipping through the nerves and body. It was like eating fire. As I opened my eyes, however, I was no longer in the training grounds, but in a purple forest. I looked around, confused and lost as to what was going on, as the trees swayed and shifted like apparitions. What was happening to me? I slowly stood and looked around, trying to take everything in. This was completely new, and I found myself becoming frightened. Where was I? My body suddenly began to shiver at the sound of the familiar voice. I turned my head to look and froze at the sight of who was in the space with me. Standing before me was the Demon Lord, mighty and terrifying as I imagined him to be up close. His face was dark and menacing as he gazed into my soul. His teeth were even more horrifying as he bared them at me animalistically. However, I could hear Sergeant's voice echo in the space.
Your test stands before you, human. The one standing in the way from you going home is the fuckface known as the Demon Lord.
Rage building. Gotcha. At the mere mention of his name, I became furious. This was the monster that was keeping me from going home. This was the bastard who wanted to hurt me and bring the boys back here, most likely to punish them or force them to take the throne.
Now, beat him down!
With pleasure, sir. I felt instant fury ignite within my core, making waves of rage and anger run through each vein in my body. My muscles tensed and my fists were ready to fly at my opponent. The time had come to prove myself. It'd be nice to see, but we're not gonna get it. The Demon Lord came swinging, arcing a large blade in my direction. I swiftly dodged and quickly began to assess the situation. He was armed, and he was as muscular as Sergeant, if not more. Another swing, another dodge. However, in this round, I could barely make out the black aura around the Demon Lord's body. Most likely, the test was crafted not to allow me to see the weakness of energy in my opponent. Smart. I had to justify my use, my visible sight. There had to be something. His weapon was exceedingly perfect, and his grip seems to be protected as well. I jumped away as the Demon Lord lunged at me, swinging his blade at me to slice me in half. He had a weapon, I did not, and I call shenanigans, that's unfair. He was built, I was not. How was I going to do this? The situation slowly began to dawn on me, causing the fury in my body to lightly shudder in weakness. Was I even ready to do this? Yes, trust your teacher, girl. My mind began to flicker through the images of my family, my friends, my fiancé. I was fighting for them. I was fighting for me, my freedom, my own need for revenge. I had to knock away any doubt in my mind and remind myself why I was there. It was all because of him. I quickly ran at the Demon Lord, my vision becoming red as blood. As the Demon Lord prepared a stance, I raised my leg and knocked it against his elbow, bending it in the opposite direction, forcing him to drop his weapon. With a hateful snarl, the Demon Lord raised his fist of his own and rammed it into my cheek, causing me to fly back and skid across the ground. Despite the pain, I quickly scrambled back onto my feet, eyeing him with a deadly glare. I had to win this. I felt my hand pulse, teasing and becoming solid as rock at my side. Blood dripped from the side of my mouth, but I didn't care. I was going to end this. With the final battle cry, I rushed forward and raised my fist behind me, ready to slam it into the Demon Lord's face. My fist was met with his, causing us both to deadlock fist to fist. Again, I want to see this image. Fire and electricity bounced between our hands. We pushed against each other. I snarled and let my rage fuel into each finger, forcing his fist back. I didn't want to lose. I wasn't going to lose. I was going to beat him down and win this. Whew, go me. The Demon Lord's fist tried to push back, but failed as I pressed forward. knocking his fist away from us and leaving him open. At last, I let out an angry yell as I brought my arm back and slammed it into his face, hard. As I stared at his face, seemed to mold over my fist at the impact before he rebounded off of it and fell to the floor. This illusion was much weaker than the real Demon Lord, but I didn't give a damn. This thing was going to feel anger I had stored in my body. I jumped onto his chest, pinning his arms to his sides with my knees. I began to pummel his face with my fist over and over. Soon enough, his face became unrecognizable and covered in blood. Now all I have to do this on the day is that. Go me. As it occurred, however, I barely noticed the world around me slowly change back to normal. It was only until my body below me turned into a training dummy that I had let it sink in hard. What? The rage within my body became quickly extinguished as I stared at the broken straw and cloth beneath my body. Small scratches decorated my fist from the friction of the dummy, and I became lost as ever. I was fighting the Demon Lord. How did I become a dummy? Well, I mean, it's the Demon Lord. It's already kind of a dummy, isn't it really? At the sound of slow applause, I turned my head to see Sergeant with a smirk on his face, clapping an apparent job well done.
I gotta admit, I'm impressed.
Me too!
You're probably the first human to pass that test.
Yay, I special. I took a moment to sink in. I was in the midst of a test that I just passed? Just like that? Go me and I made him smile. Yay. I became extremely proud of myself, feeling utter joy rushed through my body and caused me to jump up. Yeah, alright. Sergeant laughed as I pumped my fist in the air in pride.
Don't overwork yourself, or...
I barely heard him finish a sentence as I suddenly became dizzy and collapsed to the ground, immediately worn out. Yeah, feels about right. And on that note, as my character collapses into unconsciousness, I am going to have to call the session here. Until next, Taklikatila Kedo.